It's that time again.
Yep. We are Team Wester.
And you are the most important thing to us.
Team Wester
Podcast. It's all about the team.
Welcome to another edition of the Team Wester podcast. I'm Brad Gelber. I'm joined by Buffalo long snapper and my co-host, Reid Ferguson. Reid, thanks for being here tonight.
Absolutely. Thanks for hooking it up. We got a great episode coming up.
Yeah, so if people can obviously see that we're doing this remotely here. It's a short week for Reid, so he's got to condense a full week of football and then trying to fit a podcast in there. So we're connecting over the computer tonight, but we're glad we can still we can get the podcast rolling here because there's a lot to talk about, I think, based on what happened in week one, looking ahead to week two. So obviously I want to start with, first is first. What was it like being back at New Era Field for, that opening game of the season?
Yeah, it was, it was incredible. The fans are fantastic. That, goes without saying, but, we were thinking about it, or at least I was thinking about it, throughout the week of practice last week, when the last time, Bills fans were able to witness a home, week one win, right? So you think about it. Last year, obviously, we played at the Jets. The year before that, we played Pittsburgh, lost at home. Right. 2020 fans weren't there. 2019, we started, I believe, at the Jets again. Mm-hmm. 18, we started in Baltimore. So you got to go all the way back to 2017
there you go.
To the last time that the fans were in attendance for a home week one win. I just thought that was interesting, and it kind of, I guess, made this one feel a little more special because 2017 was Coach McDermott's first game in charge. So it was pretty cool to kind of look at it in that lens. But it's always great to win at home. It's always great to win, but better to win at home. So it was fantastic. Great team win. All three phases except for one play. But we always like to have that one back. But sure. No, it was a ton of fun, and I got in before the traffic, thankfully.
There you go. Yeah, that's actually a really interesting point. I think even like that you as a player are thinking about that, because I think it shows, the impact that Buffalo fans have on you guys. It's documented well, I think, about, the difference, even the COVID years when you guys were playing in an empty stadium, and the difference it is to have them back. One thing I wanted to ask, I think top of mind probably for everyone is, Josh Allen, right? So kind of suffered an injury there in the game, and they showed it at least on TV. His hand and wrist kind of was wrapped up pretty good. I know he's been cleared to play in Thursday night's game versus Miami already, but what was it just, as a player being, his teammate, seeing him kind of go down, typical Josh fighting through adversity, got back out there, but how's he doing just from kind of conversations maybe you've had or seen with him in practice?
Yeah, so he's obviously practiced the last 2 days that we've been in the building since Sunday. But I'll tell you what, I didn't even know that anything had happened
Sure.
in the game on Sunday. He obviously, I think it happened on the touchdown when he jumped over. I think it was maybe Buda Baker, but there was a bunch of us that didn't even know he got hurt.
Sure.
Because he scored, he jumped right up. We were obviously going out there for the extra point, and it kind of just, I don't know, just never really paid attention to it. And he went back out there and led another scoring drive when we kicked the field goal to extend it to 6. So credit to him for fighting through it. I know I've had a couple hand and finger injuries. I don't know exactly what he's dealing with, but for my job, it's extremely difficult. Obviously for his job, I know it's his offhand, but it's still something you've got to think about. So it was good to see him out there the last 2 days. I know he always looks forward to the games against Miami. So we're excited. We're heading down there tomorrow, and excited for another primetime game in Miami.
Yeah. So, one of the things I was thinking about with Josh, though, is, he's just so tough, right? Like you hear about that a lot, even from his teammates or from people watching the game. And even as his non-throwing hand, as you said, as a quarterback, you still have to grip the ball and hold on to it and all those things. So I think people are probably maybe don't even quite understand the lengths that you guys go to fight through injuries. And I know at the end of the season, that's what maybe locker room clean out, we kind of hear all the injuries people have actually suffered throughout the year, because it's not always super transparent for competitive reasons and all that. So, but I think at the same time, seeing Josh kind of get back out there, you don't really have a doubt he's going to. But at the same time, I'm sure the team doesn't want to risk him, further injuring himself. So, what's that balance like as a player, like trying to temper your competitiveness with also making sure you're in it for the long haul all season long type of thing?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it really comes down to, we've got a great training staff that work their butts off every freaking day to really put us in the best position, for whether it's practice that day or the game coming up for that week. So I think it really is, it depends on the player, the doctors, the training staff, the coaches. They all have multiple conversations. I can think back to when I hurt my back a couple years ago in preseason. I had to get like a injection shot on it to make it calm down. I missed the third preseason game. We kind of talked about it with the doctors, hey, it's probably not, let's sit this one out. AJ Epinesa snapped for me. I don't know if anybody remembers that out there, but we joke to this day. I was like, he's my backup and has been for a couple years. And it's just like, I just joke with him that I wanted him to get some live reps. And, and we still laugh about it. But I think it goes back to really, you really have to find a balance between what you can what you can tolerate and what's best for the team. I guess with it being his offhand, he clearly doesn't have an issue with it. Sure. And he went back out there, like I said, and played the rest of the game. Does it hurt taking snaps from under center? Probably. When we don't take that many snaps from under center, he's in the shotgun a lot anyway. So, sure. It's. I think it's like I said, I think it's finding that line between what you can tolerate and what's best for the team. This week, but long term, like you mentioned.
Sure. So, the game was kind of a tale of the two halves, right? So the first half, you guys started off a little slow and then kind of caught your groove there in the second half. I think Josh in particular, you mentioned the one play that kind of got away. And then the second half, Josh just looked like MVP Josh again. So, I know there's been a lot being made on social media or places about kind of Josh being called like overrated and in that poll between players or whatever. And now a lot of people are saying like MVP kind of Josh. Yeah, right. Exactly. So, from your
nobody knows anybody that voted.
Right.
Nobody could name anybody that voted.
I know Josh said he would love to be able to participate in the future too.
I always think about that when I see like, X% of people, it's like I've seen all these polls and these votes.
Yep.
Never been asked.
Right.
Never been asked.
Right.
Anyway.
Right. Well, that's great context actually. But, I think just seeing Josh, like from being on the field, on the sideline there with him, what was it like, I guess, kind of seeing Josh just take over at that point? We had, as we already said, maybe the play he got hurt on, but another Air Allen moment where he's gliding over players into the end zone. Josh just looks sometimes like he gets this look in his eye where he's like, I saw someone post like Josh decided that the Bills weren't going to lose that game at that moment.
Yeah. So that's pretty much what it feels like when you're out there with him. We love Josh, right? He's a gamer. He's an ultimate competitor. Like you said, he's willing to put his body out there on the line for all of us. Each and every Sunday or whatever day the game is. So. Yeah. And that's what we love about him, and that's what makes him a great leader, and that's what makes him so easy to follow. on a daily basis as the leader of the team. So, when he gets that look, like when you talk about when he gets the look in his eye, you can just tell, you know, like thinking back on Sunday, right? Like, we go down 17-3
Yep.
and nobody was blinking,
Yep.
right? Like we knew, it doesn't matter who, we've got great players on this team. We will continue to have great players on this team for years to come.
Sure.
It doesn't matter who you have out there
Right.
with 17. Like you always have a chance to win, come back, whatever it is. You're never out of it.
Right.
So, I think that's a testament to the team, the coaching staff, the players, the leadership on the team. Nobody's batting an eye, nobody's blinking. It's 17-3, good.
Yep.
Time, plenty of time to come back, and that's how we felt, and ended up pulling out the victory. But speaking on what you said, a tale of two halves. It's week one.
Right.
Crazy stuff happens in week one. You saw it all across the league from Thursday all the way to Monday. So, and that's what makes our game fun. The unpredictability of it. You think you know what's going on until you don't.
Right.
And that's what makes it a fun game to play.
Right. So we talked a little bit about the offense. I don't want to ignore the defense because,
For sure.
There was times where the defense struggled, and then all of a sudden it seemed like they kind of hit their stride when the offense hit their stride too. One guy in particular, Greg Rousseau, seemed to have a monster game there. I know some of your teammates there were praising him after the game, and he kind of had some big moments there. So overall, just from the defense, what did you see in the game on Sunday there? Because Kyler Murray is a tough quarterback to stop when he gets out of the pocket and running, and they had some weapons, James Conner, some other guys, and the defense really, when they needed to, they were able to shut him down.
Yeah, it was. Gosh, I thought it was an impressive performance, honestly, by the defense. I mean, you get Taryn injured, pretty early in the first quarter. Saw him come out. Didn't know he was, done until we saw him in the locker room at halftime. But just a super impressive job by those guys that needed to step up and get the job done. Cam Lewis, Jamarcus Ingram. I mean, holy cow, Jamarcus on the last play of the game. Talk about making a big play when it matters. I mean, that's a guy who has been fighting for a roster spot really for I think this is his third year with the team now. So played a couple years ago. I think I remember I think it was maybe week 2 or week 3. We played in Miami when we won, and I think we were down a couple guys. He had to start or play a bulk of that game, and he's just been getting better and getting better ever since. So. Super happy for those guys. But, as you mentioned, Greg Rousseau, I mean, gosh, what a player. I mean, he has been impressive to watch really all through camp. But you talk about a guy that really takes his craft seriously, and learning from a guy like Von Miller on the other side of the line, on the flip side. I mean, he really takes in all he can from Vaughn and the coaching staff, and just really perfecting his craft, and you can see it. He made a couple plays in the Pittsburgh game.
Yep.
In preseason. I know those obviously stick out to a lot of people, but the plays he made on Sunday against the Cardinals, a couple of those, I think he had 3 sacks, a couple TFLs. I mean, he's a great player, and he's gonna be good for a long time for us.
Absolutely. I'm really glad we were able to connect today, because I specifically wanted to ask you, as our special teams guru here, what are your thoughts on the new kickoff rule? Because I think as fans of the game, us watching, on TV, it's probably weird even in person seeing it, because the way the guys are lining up now. And I know it was windy on Sunday, so I know at one point I believe Sam held it for Tyler out there.
A couple times.
Yep. So they kept saying over and over on the broadcast, this is the first time we're allowed to have the extra 12th man legally out there type of thing. So, but for you, like, what's it been like? Because I think on TV, seeing this like big green box, I don't know if I'm sure you watched some of the other games this week,
yep.
but just seeing it now and trying to digest the new rules and when guys can move and they can't move and all that. So from the expert, what's it been like so far?
Yeah. It's been interesting, honestly. That's the first word that comes to mind, because there is just a whole different level of strategy, right, that goes into the type of kick you're going to hit. How many returners do they have back there? Where are the returners? Right. Where are you trying to kick it? How much hang time do you want? Hang time, because the I don't know what you want to call them, the kickoff team and the return team, like the frontline guys, I guess I'll call them, can't move until the ball is caught or hits the ground, right? So hang time, in a sense, is less important than it used to be, right? Because whether it's a really high kick or a low line drive, whether he catches it, if he catches the high one and catches the low one, the guys can't move till he catches it anyway. So it's a little bit of strategy there, but also I listened to I can't remember the guy's name, but I was watching maybe NFL Network a while back, and they were talking to there was this guy who was tasked with kind of curating and writing the rules for the new kickoff and kickoff return, and the way he described it was it basically turns into somewhat of a run play, an offensive run play, right? And you saw that a lot this weekend with the blocking schemes, and you've got guys pulling and trapping, and it's in that sense, it's extremely intriguing. I think fans will learn to like it. I know Bills fans probably are not huge fans at the moment right now,
right.
But I think the general NFL population, the fan population, will learn to like it. It brings, I don't know how many kickoffs we had on Sunday, maybe 10 to 12, with all the touchdowns and field goals for both teams. But you're really bringing that many more plays into a game, right? Instead of just saying, oh, this is going to be a touchback, right? When you're kicking towards the scoreboard in our stadium, more often than not, it's going to be a windy day. It's hard to get that ball in the end zone, right? You saw that on Sunday with some of the kickoffs that were going, to our left versus, I think, all of the kicks towards the tunnel were touchbacks, right? So when you're kicking with the wind, so in that sense, it's there's a strategy there with the wind, which way you want to kick, all that kind of stuff. That's above my pay grade, but there's a lot more strategy that goes into it, and it's going to be interesting to watch the first 3 or 4 weeks, kind of how teams attack it from a kickoff return standpoint. What kind of guys do you have back there returning? Do you have running backs? Do you have bigger guys? Do you have like a punt returner, a guy, teams are putting all kinds of guys back there, just trying to figure things out. So I think that's been kind of the most interesting thing to watch this weekend. But yeah, a lot of new information, kind of coming in this first month of the season.
And, that's kind of a good, I think, transition to, and I'm not asking you this because I know you can't speak negatively about the refs as a player. To a certain extent, you're not supposed to. But, there was certainly some interesting calls in the game, I'd say, for both sides. I think that I wouldn't, I know oftentimes Bills fans feel like, we get unfair calls for the refs, and I'm sure Cardinals fans feel the same way. And that's just being a fan of the NFL. But, there's also been some changes to the rules. I know that aside from the kickoff, and I know, some of the linemen were getting called this week because there's been some rule changes with that. But just overall, I think Dion might have said this in a post-game interview or something, but he said, we have to remember this is also the first game back for the refs too. So he seemed to take kind of the higher road with that. But as a player, do you guys think about that? Like the first game of the season, like, okay, okay, the refs got to kind of get back into the swing of things too, or is it kind of just not even something you're really like acknowledging while you're playing the game?
Yeah, I think it's a weird thing to kind of approach because uh, all the crews work during the preseason, right? So they're getting games probably at least one. I don't know if they're working every weekend, but they're probably working every weekend. They're getting 2 or 3 games under their belt in the preseason, right? So and that's game action for them, right? Different than Dion or a lot of the starters who may not have played a ton during preseason. You can, kind of knocking the rust off maybe. Talking about from the ref's perspective, do they have rust? Maybe, maybe live, real action is different. Maybe they are calling it a little stricter in the regular season than they do in the preseason. I really don't know. But, I guess my first thought is, we did beat ourselves with a lot of pre-snap stuff. I think we had, 3 or 4 false starts, which, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot at that point, especially, when you just get the ball back or, false start, but, James runs it for 12 yards down the field and you got to bring it back. So,
Right.
you obviously try your best not to play against yourself and the opponent, which I think is really the most important thing. So, it's, first game for refs, I think is probably the right way to approach it. I applaud Dion for his answer there. That's pretty good.
Yeah. Last thing I'll ask you just about, week 1 before we kind of look ahead to week 2. Some of the new guys, right, like Keon Coleman, Mac Hollins on the offensive side, you guys have quite a few new players on the offensive side and some on the defense too. What was kind of your thoughts on some of the new guys just acclimating to the team and, playing in front of, the Bills Mafia for the first time is a different experience, at least as a home player versus an away player. Did you get the sense kind of the excitement from these guys or just how they settled into, especially the rookies, maybe their first NFL real game there?
Yeah, I think all the guys responded appropriately, right? Like, anytime you go out there again, and the home fans, regardless of what team you're playing for, you're going to be, excited to get back out there. New team, I think it was big, for some of those guys. Curtis had a couple of nice plays. Yep. Ray Davis had a couple of nice plays. Keon, couple big catches there, right? Mac Hollins catching the touchdown. I don't know if that tied the game or if it was our first. They may have tied. I think that one tied the game at 17, right? So, huge play in a big moment. I think it was probably second or third down. So you're looking at maybe kicking a field goal if you don't get it. A couple big, a lot of big plays and defensive too, right? Just really impressed with those guys coming in, competing through camp, and everybody's banged up a little bit, fighting through stuff, and really just sucking it up and getting ready for game day. And it's a great thing to see, and definitely something to build on that we're excited to obviously go down to Miami and do.
So last part of week 1 holistically, I know that you're a fan of the game as well as just being a player. I don't know how much you get to watch the other games. I know obviously if it's on the day you're playing, it's a little tougher. You get maybe the afternoon or the night game versus the 1 o'clock games if you're playing at 1 o'clock type of thing. Any overall thoughts on week 1? I know you already kind of said like it's week 1, so it's crazy. Obviously, both the Patriots and the Dolphins won, so the Jets dropped their opener on Monday Night Football there, I think, which a lot of people, whether you agree or not, there's been some opinions that perhaps this could be, a good year for the Jets now that Aaron Rodgers is healthy, or maybe this is the year the Dolphins step up. Obviously, a lot of people still believe this is Buffalo's division till they concede it. But the Jets didn't have a great game, and they played a very, very good 49ers team. So, that's your division specifically. And then there was games, obviously, outside of that, some really good games. I think, the opening game of the season, Ravens-Chiefs was a good one. The Lions and the Rams game was a fun one. I thought there was a lot of good games in week 1, but maybe some thoughts overall on week 1 in the NFL.
Yeah, if there's a game on TV and I'm not, in uniform, I'm usually watching it. It doesn't really matter who it is. We only get football for a finite amount of time during the year. So whenever it's on, especially NFL, sometimes college, I'll watch outside of an LSU game. But if there's a game on, I'm usually tuned in, whether it's prime time or when I get home after a 1 o'clock game.
Yep.
The TV's already on with the afternoon games. Like I'm locked in. I'm trying to watch highlights from the 1 o'clock game, catch up with during the 1 o'clock, during our games, whatever time we're playing, the early window, late window, when there's other games going on. It's hard to pay attention to like what the other games that are happening, right? Sure. Like I know they pop the scores up there, but you're like, we're too locked into what's happening on the field, right? And all the stuff that's, all the different situations that you're finding yourself in as the game's going on to really pay attention to like, the stats and the scores and stuff they throw up there. So it's fun for me to kind of come home and catch up. It was, like I said, week one is crazy every year, right? Some teams that you thought might win lost. Some teams that you thought might get blown out maybe pulled out a victory, right? Yep. And that's like I said, that's just the way it goes. But I think week one is always a good place to point when you say the NFL has great parity, right?
Sure. Yep.
So it's I watched all the primetime games. Thursday, great game on Thursday.
Yep.
I really enjoyed Friday's game. Green Bay and Philly. That was one of the more interesting, back and forth. There was a ton of action, long touchdowns, turnovers, big sacks, all that kind of stuff. And a lot of star players. You got Saquon going to his new team, scoring 3 touchdowns, right? So like division rival, going to a division rival. Like that's all of that. I'm a fan. Like you said, I'm a fan of the game.
Right.
I'm a star. That was a guy at the team, face of the Giants franchise. Really, looking for the past 4 or 5 years, however long he's been there, going to a division rival. Like that's I don't know. That's a crazy storyline to follow, right? His first game with his new team, 3 touchdowns. It's just, and that's what makes this game and this league so much fun to follow. Really, is it doesn't matter what happens, what day of the week you're playing. People are always tuning in, and you're always going to see some great action from both sides. So it's I love football, man. It's great.
Right. Yeah, you can tell a little bit. Not to mention that game was also in Brazil for the first time too. And it was interesting to hear them talk about how loud it was there, how big of a reception they received, which was pretty cool too. That aside. Okay, so looking ahead now to week 2, right? It's kind of again the perfect time to have you on because as we've talked, I've had you and I have conversed about this before, but you're playing your brother this week. So that's always a fun topic, I think, for you. So before we get to that point though, just the short turnaround, right? So I prefaced it in the beginning of the show there that you have to kind of, I said jokingly, like jam it all in with the podcast and everything, but it's really not a joke in the sense that you guys got to go from a Sunday game to a Thursday game. And I know I've talked to guys over the years, just not everyone's a fan of that, even whether it's for risk of injury or, bouncing back from a physical game on Sunday. Now you got to play on short rest, but kind of how do you approach that? I know maybe your role's a little different, maybe than like Josh or Dion or someone like that, but like, how do you approach a short week? And then what are your thoughts overall kind of on that, like shrunken down schedule that you have to face? Sure.
Yeah. It's an interesting part of our game. Just having to turn around and play a game, basically 3.5 days later.
Right.
We've kind of been talking about it. We're happy that the Thursday, I think it's our only Thursday game of the season, comes in week 2.
Right.
Right. So if you're ever going to do it, so you might as well just get it out of the way early, right? When your body is still sort of fresh, coming off, not speaking for myself, but speaking for a lot of the other guys that play, 60, 50, 60 plays a game,
Sure.
especially the linemen getting beat up every play. It is a lot of, harder for those guys to recover, really for both teams. So, turning around quickly, I would say, like I said, it's great to kind of get it out of the way early. There's never a perfect time to do it, I guess,
Sure.
unless you're, like we did a couple years ago. We started with a Thursday game, but I think we still played two more later that season. So,
Yeah.
it's like I said, there's no perfect way, there's no
Sure.
perfect place to put a Thursday game in. Do I like watching it at home? I love watching Thursday night football, right?
Right.
It's football in the middle of the week, but
Right.
do a good portion of the players probably wish that there wasn't Thursday night games. Yeah, just because you'd rather have a full week to recover and have a full week to game plan for teams, stuff like that. So it's got its pros and cons, but it's nice. I guess one of the pros is you get a little mini bye afterwards, especially for us going week 3 all the way to Monday night.
Yep.
Back home. So that's the nice part, I guess.
So you already mentioned that you guys are leaving tomorrow, I think you said, for Miami. So kind of what's the schedule for this week? Did you guys, I know typically after a win you get Mondays off because it's like Victory Monday. Does that get erased on a short week like this? Did you go right back to work Monday and you're leaving tomorrow? Kind of like give me a preview of how the week's gone for you guys.
Yeah, we Monday was we were in on Monday. It's a quick, on the short week, it's a relatively quick film review, because you kind of got to turn the page real quick to your next opponent being Miami. So we did some game review, and then started getting into the Miami film, the install stuff, walkthrough stuff on Monday, and then kind of the same thing today, but really today was all Miami focused, and with practice and the walkthroughs and stuff. So you get basically half a day Monday, all day Tuesday of Miami stuff, and then Wednesday, meetings, and then meetings and walkthrough in the morning, and then meetings the night before. So, and then a little bit on Thursday, I guess, since it's a night game. But it's it's a condensed week. You gotta squeeze it in when you can, and really just kind of put in some extra film work at home. At home on your own when we're not in the building, but maybe catch up on the flight a little bit. Long flight down there, a couple hours.
Sure.
I don't know, but it's it presents its challenges, but nothing we haven't done before.
So I'll ask you this, and I don't expect you to give me like the insight that would give anything away clearly, but there's been some opinions that perhaps because of the short week, the offense and Joe Brady, for one example, maybe held some stuff off the play sheet there because they didn't want Miami to get to kind of see everything in the toolkit, if you will, before week 2. Just maybe broadly, is that something that you've seen in teams of the past or not? Like, is that something teams actually do? Do they hold stuff out in anticipation of a future game, or is that kind of just like fodder for people to kind of guess at or something like that?
I guess I really wish I could give like a good soundbite here, because I know people would love to hear that, right? But I really wish I knew. I guess I'm more focused on special teams, obviously, because that's what my job pertains to. But do they run different stuff on Sunday? Are they going to use different formations on Thursday? Probably. That's a great question. I really honestly wish I could give the people listening an answer. I really honestly don't know. But if I did, I'm sure that would make a nice clip there. But I truly honestly don't. It's I feel like every team, you've got X amount of plays in the playbook.
Right.
You use some portion of them, week in and week out, and kind of adjust from there. So, will you see different plays Thursday than you'll see the next time we play Miami? Absolutely, right.
Sure.
So I think it's probably more, I guess, maybe matchup based, than people probably realize. Yeah,
Absolutely. All right. Well, it was worth a shot. I appreciate the
definitely.
honest
No doubt,
answer
no doubt, no doubt.
there. But all right. So we did. You put out a tweet earlier just to get some questions from some fans, and this kind of pertained to my next question for you too. So on Twitter, we had Bill Took ask, how do you prepare going from cool temps in Buffalo to heat and humidity in Miami, though it will be 80 here tomorrow? So I guess kind of what I was going to ask you too was, even though it's a night game, which I know kind of you catch a little bit of a break because the sun isn't the big factor, which I think we're all pretty well aware that often the visiting team there in Miami has to kind of sit in the baking sun down there in Miami. So you guys you catch that break. I know last year it was well documented with the IVs. I know we talked to Dawson last year, and he kind of gave us the inside scoop on guys just, left and right, had multiple IVs in trying to stay hydrated and stuff. So you kind of maybe get that benefit of not dealing with the sun, but it's still going to be hot. It's still going to be humid down there. Is that going into the preparation this week with conditioning and stuff like that? Are guys kind of loading up on fluids? Kind of how does that work leading up to that game?
Yeah, definitely trying to hydrate more, just really, focusing on what you're eating and what you're drinking on, in this 72 hours before kickoff. Right. So, but it's, a lot of these guys are from Florida, from Texas, from Georgia, a lot of guys from the southern part of the United States. Guys have played here, played in it before. We've got, Matt Collins has played there. So, while your body, for the past month and a half or 2 months has been getting accustomed to the Buffalo weather, the night game certainly helps. I think, it's going to be, like you mentioned, it's going to be about 80 degrees and muggy. But, just try to hydrate and condition yourself the best you can before you go down there is really what's going to help. But for me personally, it really comes down to how the footballs are affected. Which is something that I don't, people probably don't realize how the weather and the temperature and the humidity affects how the football feels on your fingers. Whether, whoever that is, whether you're center, quarterback, kicker, snapper, holder. It's not a kicker, but snapper or holder. How does it feel coming off your fingers? The leather feels different.
Sure.
It's a little more grippy, right? It's not as smooth as if you're a little, while it's drier up here, the ball can feel a little smoother. So like I was licking my fingers a little bit on Sunday because it was so windy and it was a little chilly. The air was real dry. So it's just a little bit of a different approach for myself, and getting used to the way the footballs. But most of that's done during pregame. By the time we get to kickoff, we've got everything figured out. But it's really just getting it dialed in pregame, and kind of it's a grass field. Get moving on the grass is always great too. So it's I would say that kind of rounds it up. Making sure you're hydrated, and then the grip on the football is really the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, that's actually a really cool point. Like you said, I don't know how many people think about that as non-players. So definitely interesting to kind of get your perspective, which is why it's awesome to be able to connect with you on this show here. Next up, I think, as fans and people watching the game, you get excited about primetime games because, it's national TV and everyone's, it's the only game on and usually in the window there. I know players have admitted before too, you definitely can, it's a little different for you guys. Maybe you try to stay level-headed or not let it impact the game, obviously. But for you, when you guys do play on primetime, like you're gonna, this week, is there a different feel for it when you get out there and it's, on the national TV and it's nighttime and all that sort of thing?
Yeah, I always tell guys, like I tell the rookies when they come in, like I was talking to some guys at breakfast this morning, like prime time is why you play the game.
Sure.
Right? Like Sundays at 1 o'clock are great.
Yep.
Away games at 1 o'clock, great, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Prime time is, everybody's watching.
Right.
This is the game that the primetime games that you sit at home and it's appointment television, right? And you're sitting on the couch and that's the game you're watching, right? It's like, which game on Thanksgiving do you want to play in? The middle one, because everybody watches the middle game, right? The 3:30, you just ate lunch, you're sitting on the couch, you're watching the game, right? Like that's the primetime games are the games that you play the game for.
Right.
I love primetime games. They're great. It's fun to be under the lights, and you really can never take it for granted because I remember my first couple of years here, we barely had any primetime games. Right. And then obviously the past handful of years we tend to get 5 or 6 a year. So I've learned not to take it for granted for sure.
So, we talked a little bit briefly about, it's you versus your brother. And I know when you and I connected in the off season, we kind of hit on that a little bit. But what's this week been like with Blake? Do you cut off all communication? Do you guys talk until, now? Like, how's it go? And like, because I know, it's hard with a brother. You guys are super close, obviously, but you are competitors this week. So how does that all work between you guys the week when you play each other?
Yeah, it's we don't talk any more or less than we normally do. We're still texting and sending memes to each other on Instagram, like anybody else, like everybody else does. So it's we keep it light. It's zero stress. Every other week of the season we're talking strategy. Hey, this team. If we play the team, if whatever it is. Hey, watch my snap. What do you think about this blocking? How I blocked here. Mm-hmm. How I'll give him some tips. He'll give me some tips. Whatever it is. But this week is kind of just I would say pretty bland. Sure. But it's really just I'm excited to see him. It's so crazy that we can play this game, play the same position, and play each other twice a year. We're so fortunate and so blessed to be able to do that. And we talk about that, when we get down there on game day and we kind of, we go out there and meet each other on the field and we chit chat, we just kind of reminisce and like think about how lucky we are to be where we are and to play each other twice a year. And, it's pretty cool to just kind of sit there and ponder over that. Right. And yeah, like I said, never take it for granted. So, and looking to keep it rolling.
Do you get a chance to spend any time like with him if for instance, this week, since you guys have that kind of extended bye, I know he has a game, but like, do you get that chance, or is it really more just kind of you see each other during the game and then you kind of have to go back to your normal schedules from there? Yeah,
we usually try to see each other like when we first get down there, like the day before the game. Try to share a meal because we usually have a bunch of family down there. Right. So we usually try to reconnect with everybody. Just because ever since I don't know when the last time we all spent like a holiday together, right? Like Thanksgiving or Christmas. So it's really just people. From all parts of the family, friends from all over, come to, mostly to Miami. Not a lot of people come up to the Buffalo, to when they play in Buffalo. Sometimes people do, but everybody wants to go to Miami, which is fun. It's catching up with people, me and Blake catching up, seeing family and friends. And then, like I mentioned, we chat a little bit on game day, pregame. Don't really, we obviously not talking during the game, but we'll hang out a little bit after the game and talk to mom and dad. So it's been good. It's been working out pretty well. So yeah, I'm excited to see him.
You just kind of mentioned it there, but I did want to ask you, I know you and I have talked about this before, but your parents do a lot of traveling throughout the season to try to be at games and for both of you guys. What do parents do on game day when their sons are playing each other? Do they just hope no one gets hurt? Do they pull for one side? Does one parent take one team and the other take the other? Like how does this work for the Fergusons there?
That's a great question. So mom's got the split jersey.
Okay.
Obviously,
yep,
I think dad usually goes shirt for the home team, hat for the away team.
Okay.
So I think that's his go-to, unless it's in Buffalo and it's 10 degrees outside. He's probably got a big old winter coat on, but maybe a Bills beanie. But they're extremely supportive, and they always have been. Regardless of if they're watching me play somewhere or they're at home or they're watching Blake at home or if it's a Ferguson Bowl, right? They're supportive either way. So when we play each other, they're probably rooting for some really good snaps and a lot of points, so they can see us snap some more, I guess. But yeah, they're I don't think they're rooting one way or the other, but. Yeah, that's they. I think they usually they keep it pretty even.
There you go. All right, that's fair, I guess. But last thing here before we maybe take a quick look at just a couple of the other fan submitted questions here. It's well documented that Josh Allen has had a lot of success versus Miami. I think you've even said to me before that, you've given your brother a hard time for kind of the Buffalo record over Miami in the last several years here. I know Josh wouldn't really allow that to cloud how he prepares or anything like that. But is it something that you as a team kind of after the fact ever acknowledge wow, he really has had a lot of success versus this one team in our division? Or is it something that really is more the media kind of created? Because, it's just stats are the stats, and he's
Sure.
performed really kind of very well versus Miami.
Yeah, I think it's probably more media, honestly. It's a division opponent. We love playing in the division because they help. Those division wins help us get to the playoffs, right?
Sure.
Home or away, you really got to win in your division. So, but I guess for Josh specifically performing so well, I think it's more just knowledge that you can do it. Right. It's encouragement. It's not, really anything to base future performance off of, right. I guess, or future game planning or anything, because, every time you play, I don't know when we play them again, maybe week 9 or something. It's in November. I think it's in November, maybe. They're going to be a different team. We're going to be a different team. Right. And I mean, you look at, we played them. Buffalo and the Buffalo Bills and Miami Dolphins have played 2 or 3 games. They had one playoff game after we played them, and they played 2 days ago. Right. So this is the 3rd game they've played since we last played them. Right. Down there in Miami at the end of last season, we've played. This will be our 4th game. 3. We've played 3 games. So, the personnel changes so much. From season to season, really, even from the first time you may play a team to the second time you may play a team. So it's, does he do well against Miami? Yes, he tends to do well against Miami. Is it necessarily something that we're all looking at and saying, yes, he's going to do that exact, performance again? No, because it's, every game is different. Every game plan is different. The way you attack teams in game 1 versus game 2 is different, right? So it's like I said, it's probably more media, I would imagine, but it's definitely, it's something to say, yeah, we have performed, Josh has done well against Miami in past years. That's encouraging to, I guess on the mental side to say, yeah, let's go out there and try and do it again.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's finish up here by taking a few of these fan questions for you. So I'm looking here at Primetime Meegs wants to know thoughts on the skillet for majority of cooking. I live in an apartment. So I think he's referencing kind of your grilling prowess there. So he wants some inquiring into the thoughts on the skillet.
Yeah, so I love cooking on a skillet. I kind of you can do a lot on a skillet. You can do it's kind of like a Blackstone, but a smaller version. You can kind of do you can do breakfast. You can do hibachi. You can do we on my Blackstone I like to do like shrimp tacos, smash burgers. It's a very versatile piece of equipment. So my recommendation would be to get on Instagram or get on Pinterest or something. No, it's not just a girl app, by the way. Pinterest is cool to use for guys too, especially for like grilling recipes. Get on there and do some research, and you can find endless amounts of recipes that you could do right at home in your apartment on your skillet.
Awesome. There you go. See, Primetime Meegs, you get some good cooking advice there from Reid. So we took Bill's question there. So we have another kind of fast food related question. I think we all know what your top choice is. So this is kind of from I Care About Buffalo Stuff. He wants to know Carl's Jr. or Hardee's, if you had to pick between those two specifically.
Oh man, I'm going to go Hardee's just because that's what I grew up around. I've had Carl's Jr. maybe once or twice, but I grew up around Hardee's, so I'm going to go Hardee's.
All right, that's fair. I'm gonna head over to Instagram. I had a couple. We posted it on there too. So TJ Solsky, who actually works for Wester, so shout out to him. He wants to know, what is Reid's favorite thing to cook on the smoker? I'm sure you've been asked this quite a few times.
I have almost perfected my pork butt recipe. So that's probably my favorite thing, just because it's delicious and it lasts a while. It's very versatile too, right? Once you get the pulled pork done, you can do a lot with it. You can throw it on a sandwich. You can eat it by itself. You can throw it in some tacos. You can put it on a salad, right? There's a lot of things you can do with it, and an average size one can last you at least a couple days. Awesome.
All right. The last one I got for you. So Dawn wants to know, Dawn 26, she asked, does Reid play fantasy football? So I often wonder this with you guys, because, you're in essence, you're choosing your peers as a professional player of other people. And I know, unfortunately, you don't get to choose special teams players beyond the kicker. So, do you partake in fantasy? And if so, do you have like a family league, or like how do you play with other players on the team? Kind of how do you do it?
Yeah, I've got a home league just of me. It's just me, and it's a 12-man league. Just a bunch of buddies from college. And we've had the league going for, it's 12 or 13 years now. So pretty cool. It's a redraft league, but it's pretty cool. I think watching the other games, you kind of follow who you have. If you got somebody playing, and it's kind of fun to like root for them, I guess, in that way. But it definitely makes you tune in, like. You're like, oh man, I need this guy to get a catch here. And you're like, they have no idea that they don't have any idea, right? They're just trying to help their team win. But no, it's fantasy is fun. It's exploded, right? The last 10 or 15 years brought so many eyes to the game. And I think it's great. Yeah, fantasy's fun. But yeah, I do have a home league.
My one follow-up will be, and you might not be able to ever admit this and face him in the locker room, do you ever draft a kicker other than Tyler Bass for any of your fantasy team?
No, I try to get Tyler every time, unless somebody steals him, because they know I'm going to take him. I try to get him every time because I tell myself that's I'm performing vicariously through Tyler Bass. So I like to think that I'm maybe helping get points for my team.
There you go. All right. Well, Reid, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I know it's tough to fit it in this week. We really appreciate it. Some really great insight.
Appreciate the flexibility.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in as well.
Totally. So, make sure you stay tuned because we're going to be doing this all throughout the season. If you missed the news in the off season, Reid's co-hosting full time with me this year. So we're going to have a lot of great conversations. We have some in-person podcasts going to come up, maybe some fun remote ones on location. So definitely stay tuned to all of our social channels. You can find our audio on any of the major streaming platforms as well. But for Reid Ferguson, I'm Brad Gelber. Thanks for watching another edition of the Team West Herr podcast. We'll see you soon.